Good morning. I need my artificial brain to tell me what I'm doing. Seven. I'll subject you to this. Sorry. 75 years ago, this beautiful country was occupied during the Second World War by the brutal, oppressive forces of a ruthless enemy. After 6 young Canadian airmen made an emergency landing in this field, more than 40 men and women of this area defied that occupying force by actively helping those airmen avoid capture and then sending them home. More than 50 Canadians are gathered here with you this morning. Everyone, hands up. Canadians. We are here to honor, remember, and celebrate those remarkable people of occupied Norway, whose courage and generosity 75 years ago saved the 6 young Canadian airmen. Here's how it started. The crew of 6 407 Demon Squadron Royal Canadian Air Force airmen took off from their base at Wick, Scotland, shortly after midnight on September 26, 1944, for a regular patrol over the North Sea to look for U-boats. Not long into the flight, one of the 2 engines blew and caught fire, and their routine patrol turned into a nightmare. Seeking to keep the aircraft flying, they dropped their depth bombs, they threw out their machine guns and bullets, which one of the members of Milorg later chastised them for. He said he could have used them to kill Germans. They even threw out their parachutes and dumped most of their fuel. Left with a small reserve of fuel, they headed east toward the nearest land, Norway. Near the coast, they flew over enemy ships. Those ships fired at them, and they started new fires in the airplane. Flying along this fjord, coming this way, the crew spotted this green field. They turned toward it to try to land. Just before arriving, the aircraft ran out of fuel. The second engine died. And as you've heard, it touched down over there, skipped, went through the trees, wingtip went through the trees, back to the ground, and miraculously caught a pile of rubble and stopped before going over the drop-off. The nightmare had ended. An adventure was just beginning. Scrambling from the wrecked plane, they met their first Norwegians, right here. A small group of neighbors was gathering. One of them told the crew to head down the peninsula, although he didn't do that because the Germans over there would have seen him gesturing. He did it, go that way. By directing the 6 Canadians away, these ordinary Norwegians defied their country's occupying force. Down at the shore, the crew was helped again by ordinary women and men who hid them in a cave. Even as the Germans were searching around their home, these people managed to connect the crew with members of Milorg, who took the Canadians away in rowboats that night. From that moment until they were taken to Leif Larsen and Vigra, the Shetland bus, for the trip back to Scotland, the crew was looked after by Milorg, a group who risked their lives regularly for Norway. For a large part of the time, the crew was at Botnahitta, I think that's close, a tiny cabin Milorg used to hide people throughout the war over in the neighboring municipality of Samnanger. The crew came to call the cabin Little Canada because they knew of a Norwegian training base near some of their homes in Canada called Little Norway. In a time of rationing and widespread shortages, the crew were fed, given clothing and shoes that they needed. They ate meals with local families in their homes on their trip up to the cabin and again on the way down toward their rendezvous with Vigra and the trip back to Britain. More than 40 Norwegians actively participated in saving those 6 Canadians. Whether they were regular people or members of Milorg, everyone who helped the crew knew that they would be shot if they were found out by the occupation forces. They helped anyway. Their humanity, their courage, their generosity so saved those 6 strangers who became our fathers, who also became grandfathers and great-grandfathers. We celebrate that courage and remember those remarkable people. Sorry. We are here, all of us today, to honor them. We also honor you who keep the memory of those people and their actions alive in this community. As someone said recently, my father said that when they landed in this field, the crew thought that they were among strangers, but soon found that they had fallen among friends. He wrote, "I know that I am echoing the thoughts of each member of our crew when I say, we can never repay the enormous debt we owe to those living and dead who by their unselfish, heroic actions aided us in our hour of need." We say thank you. I'm sorry. With all our hearts, we say thank you. So, someone in the Biddle family, one person come forward. From the Deeth family, from the Grandies. One of you people over here. Eric, Catherine, come forward. Clay Pashka. There you go. As there are no members of the Neal family that we could find. Gary, are you here? Each of the 6 families will be placing flowers at the memorial stones. And thank you all.